right, my friends, we're back. It's time for another one of my world famous tier lists. This time, we're going to be taking a look at the world of legacy bands. Legacy bands, meaning those bands that have just been around for so long that, I don't know, they just feel like they're an institution. Kind of like, you know, your grandma that's like 95 years old and you're like, how is she still alive? Like, how does she still show up at Thanksgiving every year? You know, isn't she going to die soon? And she never dies. And there's, you know, bands like that in the scene, and almost always they're terrible, but there are some exceptions to that. There are some bands that somehow 30, 40 years into their career are still putting out good music. They're out there. And so today we'll look at the most recent releases from many of your favorite legacy bands, and we will ask, did they hold up? Are they one of the rare examples of an old band putting out good new music? Or is it one of the many old bands that probably should have stopped putting out new music a long time ago? We shall see. And also, I wanted to mention something new that I'm doing, which is a YouTube coaching program. If you're an individual creator or you're a company, really anybody that wants to grow on YouTube, this is for you. Basically, this is a way to download everything that I have learned about YouTube over the past 7 years from my brain into yours. There's a pretty common set of challenges that pretty much everybody runs into on YouTube. I've run into pretty much all of them. And with this coaching program, I can help you get past those a lot faster than I did figuring it out on my own. For example, in my opinion, the single most important thing for any channel is figuring out the right niche for your content. Like, what should you focus on and how do you talk about it? For example, for me on this channel, once I found that, I went from getting, you know, a couple hundred views a video to tens of thousands of views per video, literally almost overnight. You can see it right here. And also the right approach to things like titles and thumbnails and how to structure your videos to keep people's attention, all that stuff that took me years to figure out on my own through trial and error. I just want to help you speed run all of that. I am super excited about this, and I'm going to be putting a lot of time and energy into it over the course of the year. And if you want to find out more about it, you can just hit the link in the description of this video. The first one on the list is Green Day. If you remember, Green Day went through a bit of a rough spell a while ago. They had the Uno Dos Tres trilogy, which was really bad. And then they had Father of All MFers, which was also pretty bad. Everybody thought that they were done, just shot over the hill. One of these bands, it's like, you know, you just want to take them out back and euthanize them, or at least stop them from making new music. But plot twist, they just came out with a new album called Saviors a couple months ago. And turns out it's actually pretty goddamn good. Pretty goddamn good. Right? Not bad. I would say this album was probably the best thing that they've done since American Idiot, in my opinion. And it's sort of interesting how Green Day has this thing where their career goes like in ups and downs. Like Dookie was great, and then they had a couple albums that weren't so great, and then American Idiot was awesome, and then they had a few more albums that were not so good, and then, you know, we sort of thought they were done, and then pow, they came back with this album, and it was actually really good. I don't think it's the best thing in their career by any means, but for a band, you know, they started in what, 1988 or 89 or something like that. So for a band that's been around for like 35 years, I would say pretty damn good. So the question is, where do we rank this album, Saviors, in terms of new albums by legacy bands? I would say it's a solid A tier. It's not the best thing they've ever done, but it's far from the worst. B or C, I think it's an A tier. That's where I'm going to put it. I think it's a solid A tier. Very, very, very impressive for a band that's been around that long, and quite a pleasant surprise. Another band that's been extremely consistent over the years is Cannibal Corpse. They've been around also since probably around the same time, since 1987 or something like that. I feel like with most bands, their early stuff is either the best stuff they've ever done or the worst stuff they've ever done. And with Cannibal Corpse, I think their first two albums were definitely the worst thing they'd ever done, like Eaten Back to Life and Butchered at Birth. Like, you know, maybe by the standards of like 1988, 89, they were okay, I guess, but kind of not great. They didn't really get good until Tomb of the Mutilated, which in my opinion is like one of the top 3 best death metal albums of all time. And they've really been like consistently very good ever since. They've been putting out good music for over 30 years. And I would say they've never put out anything that's bad, you know, since they sort of entered their prime, just very consistently good, churning it out. I don't know that they're like the world's best band either, but they're not mid. I would say they're just consistently very good. Right? Very good, but not great. Now, let's listen to this new song by them from a month ago from their most recent album called Vengeful Invasion. Let's check it out. See how it holds up. Solid. Very solid stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds good. I would say The Bleeding is probably their peak. This isn't as good as The Bleeding, but it's definitely not bad. And I would say as far as death metal goes, I would say they're still among one of the better bands in the genre. So, you know, I think Cannibal Corpse probably... Here's the thing. To be honest, their albums all kind of sound the same. I feel like you could just sort of pick one song and mix and match it and stuff. And other than the mix, they would kind of all sound the same. So... You know, maybe not the most dynamic, diverse band in the world, but not a damn thing wrong with this stuff. That's what I think. So, what do you think? A or B tier? What do you? Yeah, kind of formulaic. It's very formulaic. I feel like I want to put them on the B tier. Yeah, I'm going to put it on the B tier. I think A tier would be fair also. Yeah, I don't usually do half tiers, but putting Cannibal Corpse on the B tier feels unfair because they're better than that, but they're not really an A tier band either. So I'm going to put it as a B plus, which I don't normally do. That's what I think. Yeah, when you're on top of your genre, changing isn't always the best idea. That's what I think. Okay, I agree with that. Okay, and now I know a lot of you guys are going to be upset with this one because all of you guys love The Offspring, and I gotta say, I'm not on board with The Offspring. I think The Offspring have always been kind of a little cringe. To me, The Offspring is like if Weird Al made a punk album, except they're not joking, but they kind of are. You know what I mean? It's very Weird Al, and I don't mean that in a good way. They seem like lovely guys, don't get me wrong. I would definitely like to be friends with them, but their music, a little cringe, in my opinion. They've been around since, what, 1987, I think? Something like that, 89. So they've been around for, you know, a solid 35 years or something like that. And let's see what they're up to now. Their most recent album came out in 2021 from the album Let the Bad Times Roll. Very original, considering that the Vandals put out a song called Let the Bad Times Roll in like 1996. A little bit tacky in my opinion. But let's check out what the Offspring have been up to lately. Sounds like Train. Yeah, the bad times are definitely rolling. I feel bad because they seem like great guys, but this is just really not good. Yeah, no false advertising here. This is when you wish that the band had someone. You remember the part in the Metallica movie when Lars asks his dad, like, what do you think? And he's like, I think you should delete this and start over. You remember that part? I feel like you need someone like that in your life, especially for the Offspring. They need someone in their life to tell them, you should delete this and start over. Except, I don't think you should start over. I think you should just delete it. Why do all these aging bands' music end up sound like it belongs in a Target commercial? Feels unavoidable, doesn't it? Yeah, so, little rough around the edges, right? Well, listen, I'm sorry, Offspring fans. I know this may not be popular, but as far as new albums from legacy bands, I gotta say, that's F tier. No other way around that. Absolute F tier. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I can't pretend that that's good. How about a band that's been around since even longer than that, which is Judas Priest. Haven't they been around since the 60s? How long? Like 1969 or some shit? Yeah, since 1969. This band has been around over 50 years. How about that? I will admit, I was never the biggest fan of Judas Priest. I don't really like classic metal all that much, although I do like Rob Halford. Rob, if you're watching, I would like to be friends with you. If you're open to that idea, I'm making a formal request to be friends with you, Rob Halford. But yeah, so a band that's been around since 1969. You would think it's going to be terrible, right? Imagine how terrible something must be for a band that's been around for 55 years, huh? Must be awful, right? Well, wait a minute. Still sounds pretty good to me. Rob Halford looks like a Dune character. He does. I want to sell him my spice. He sounds fucking great. I'm not an expert on Judas Priest, so I don't know. But to me, this sounds like Judas Priest as good as they ever were, to me. I think he sounds fucking awesome. I'm not into this, like, style of music, but I think he sounds awesome. Sounds like he's still in surgery. Yeah, man, he sounds amazing. How old is this motherfucker, Rob Halford? He's got to be like 70 or something. 72 years old. 72 years old, and listen to this motherfucker. Listen to that shit. I think it sounds damn good. Again, would I choose to listen to it? Probably not, but that's just because I'm not really into this style of music. Yeah, I think as far as new albums from legacy bands go, I'm damn impressed. I think it's about as good as you could expect. Even for me, someone who doesn't like this style of music, it has my fucking respect. So yeah, I'm going to put that on the S tier. Nice work. Slow clap. Slow clap for Rob Halford. Slow clap for Judas Priest. That's what I think. How about another band that I am known to not be a huge fan of, which is Metallica. 72 Seasons by Metallica. This song's so long. So you guys are all saying this album is terrible. I don't agree with that, and I'm a known Metallica not enjoyer. The only Metallica stuff I really like is the Black Album. I think everything after that was basically like they had probably a good solid 20 years of just total garbage, right? Like Load was bad, Reload was bad, Saint Anger was horrible, that Lulu shit was awful. And then they came back with like Hardwired, which was like okay, Death Magnetic was okay. Personally, like I don't like Metallica and I would not choose to listen to this, but I think this is the best stuff they've done probably since the Black Album. Like I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's really solid. Yeah, it's not terrible at all. It almost sounds like the album they would have put out after Kill 'Em All, but with like modern production, I think, right? It's like a more polished, like classic, you know, thrash, speed metal kind of album. Would I choose to listen to it? No, but I say respect. I mean, I think it came out a lot better than I thought it was going to be. So I think it's very unfair to say that this is F tier. I'm not on board with that. I'm going to put this on the B tier. That's what I think. B tier, which, you know, there's a lot of Metallica stuff I would put on the F tier. So putting it on the B tier, to me, puts it in the top half of their catalog, in my personal opinion. Fuel was the first Metallica song I ever heard. I loved it back then, but it certainly didn't age well. No, it certainly didn't. An AI album your dad cranks on his JBL Bluetooth speaker. Well, he calibrates the tongs. So wait, you're supposed to calibrate the tongs on your grill? I don't even know how to do that. What kind of a grill dad am I? Next, okay. Prepare yourselves, people. Warning, 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 potential cringe overdose. If you are allergic to cringe, then I would suggest that you close your browser right now because you are about to get a fatal overdose, a lethal overdose of cringe. This is the most recent album from Danzig. Danzig sings Elvis. And notice here that the video upload here has hashtag Roy Orbison, hashtag Johnny Cash, hashtag Elvis Presley. It's even worse than you think. It's even worse.
Maybe I didn't hold you all those lonely, lonely times.
What is this?
And I guess I never told you.
He's self-recorded and mixed most of it. I can tell. Sounds like a bootleg from an amateur funeral singer, yes.
Second best.
I don't know who signed off on this. He's got enough of a diehard fan base that they'll buy literally anything that he puts out. This is so bad that it's actually made me feel like, oh, maybe I should rank the Offspring higher because as bad as that Offspring shit is, at least it's not as bad as Danzig sings Elvis. So I feel like we need a Z tier for this, but we don't have a Z tier. So F tier is the best I've got. Very likely that this is the worst new album ever made by like a legacy artist. I have a hard time thinking that we're going to find anything that's worse than this, but this is right. Sad thing is there are at least 5 people that like the album. The sad thing is that there's someone out there that this is their favorite album. There's someone out there in the world, out of the 8 billion people on the planet Earth, there's someone out there who thinks that this is their favorite album they've ever heard, and they just absolutely love it. And I'm scared of this person. This person is a psychopath that will stop at nothing to destroy the planet. Okay, next up, NoFX, another band that I think NoFX has been around since 1984, I think. So they've been around for a very, very, very long time, about 40 years now. And surprisingly, quite good. Really solid.
I'm a rat in a trap,
Sounds like no effects. Does no effects have an unlistenable album? No, they don't. This is especially impressive because almost all punk bands from back then like have at least a couple albums that are absolutely horrible and have just turned into like awful dad rock or something like that. No Effects has never put out anything bad that I'm aware of. Probably like one of the most consistent bands of all time. Really high bar for quality. I think it's pretty damn good. It's not the best thing they've ever done, but I wouldn't expect that 40 years into their career. It's certainly good. I think it's damn good. I would say that's a solid, what do you guys think? I would say a solid A tier. That's what I think. Damn good. A solid A tier, you know, right up there with Green Day in terms of being like surprisingly good. That's what I think. Solid A tier. Shout out to No Effects. You know, maybe, you know what, since we're doing halves, I'm going to break the rules once again, and I'm going to put this between S and A tier. Excellent. Excellent stuff. Shout out to No Effects. Respect. An album that is not exactly new, but it is the most recent album by a legacy artist. Chinese Democracy by Guns N' Roses. Have you ever heard this? This is from 2008. Actually, the most recent thing that they've done, as far as I'm aware. This album took like 14 years to come out. They re-recorded it a million times and blah, blah, blah. Nobody thought it was going to ever come out. It eventually did in 2008. And after all that hype, after over a decade of hype, this is what we got from Guns N' Roses. Sounds like Methods of Mayhem. Actually, Methods of Mayhem is better than this. It is actually comically bad, yes. This was supposed to be the hit single. Ugh. I mean, I can't think of an album that is more underwhelming than that, right? I mean, it's more than underwhelming. Like, this was one of the most anticipated albums of all time. So obviously it had high expectations, but just absolute shit tier music from a band who used to be like one of the best, like Appetite for Destruction is one of the best albums ever recorded in any genre ever. Absolute god tier masterpiece. And then they come out with this. I don't know. I might rather listen to this than Danzig singing Elvis, but not by much. It's better than Elvis, but not by much. Another band that's been around for a very, very long time. Let's see, how long has ACDC been around? Let's see. I feel like ACDC might have been around since the 60s too. If not the 60s, then at least the early 70s. Let's see. Since 1973. Okay, so this band is 50 years old. Still kicking it. And here's what they sound like. Sounds like AC/DC. Could be worse, right? I feel like this is good hot dog rock, in the sense that, as I've said before, hot dog rock is music that I would never actually choose to listen to. But, you know, if it was playing in the background while I'm waiting in line to get a hot dog at the county fair, and these guys were playing, I'd be like, you know what? AC/DC's not too bad. Not too bad. I would still never listen to it, but I think they're solid hot dog rock. Not the best album in the world by any means. I would say for a band that's been around for 50 years, I think that's respectable. They've made the same album for 50 years, no dip in quality, but not a lot of quality overall. Yeah, that's what I think too. So I'm going to put them on the C tier. Yeah, just, it's like Mr. Pibb. You'd rather not have Mr. Pibb, but if you do have to have Mr. Pibb, you're like, you know, this isn't that bad. I was expecting it to be trash, but not bad. So that's where I'd put the latest release by AC/DC. I think it belongs on the C tier. How about your boys in Red Hot Chili Peppers? We've only just begun. I don't understand how such good musicians could make such horrible music. I mean, this is bad. Whew, rough stuff. Really, really not good. The one they did before this was actually better than I would have expected, but then they released this just absolute turd. I think this is from 2022. Yeah, just absolute turd. What do you guys think? I'm going to put this on the F tier. I'm sorry. And by the way, I love like the 80s and 90s Red Hot Chili Peppers. The first like 3 or 4 albums I absolutely love. Everything after that, not such a big fan of. This album, I'm sorry, horrible. Probably the worst thing they've ever done. Really shockingly bad. Shockingly bad. Another band, surprisingly not good, Pearl Jam. Like, Not even songs anymore. Like, what is this? This sounds like a local band. It's not even a song. It does sound like commercial music, but yeah, commercial music for not even something cool. It's like for like Kia or Hyundai, you know, something like that. Or maybe like, yeah, like Dr. Pepper. Sounds like a commercial for some sort of like lower tier off-brand thing that nobody actually really wants. Listen, I guess respect to them for somehow having a career for over 30 years, but very, 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 very not good. Just sounds like some uncle like shouting into the mic. Okay, Uncle Eddie, come on. Okay, let's put down the mic. Okay, let's get you home, Eddie. Yeah, we had a lot of fun doing karaoke. Time to go home now. F tier. Sorry, not good. F tier, awful. Sorry, not good. Last one we have here is how about Slipknot? I feel like, you know, with Slipknot, every time they put something out, people always want it to be Iowa. They're like, oh, is it gonna sound like Iowa? You know, even though Iowa was almost 25 years ago at this point, which is sad. And I don't know why you would expect, you know, guys in their 50s now to put out an album that sounds like they did when they were 30. That seems unrealistic to me, but that's sort of the expectation. And so I feel like there's sort of this narrative that like all of Slipknot's newer albums is bad. And I don't agree with that. I don't agree with it at all. I think this sounds fucking good. I think this sounds really fucking good. I mean, obviously the band has not been the same without Paul and Joey, because, you know, they just can't be, because I think Paul and Joey were really like probably the main like creative drivers in terms of songwriting. I think they wrote most of the best parts of the best songs. So without them, the band's not the same, but it's fucking good. I think everyone's a bunch of haters. Everyone's like says that this new Slipknot stuff is trash. I don't know what's wrong with you. I think it's solid. It's not the best thing in the world, but I think it is very solid. I'm going to put this on the same tier, I think, as Cannibal Corpse. That's what I think. On the B.5 tier. That's what I think. In between an A and a B. B+, exactly. Justice for new Slipknot. I will hear no slander of new Slipknot. I think it's entirely good stuff. And that does it for this tier list, which was new albums by legacy bands. And as we can see, you know, a lot of stinkers in there, but there's some pretty decent stuff too. So there we have it. Join us next time for another one of my patented tier lists. Wait, you're supposed to calibrate the tongs on your grill?